Captain Mike Anderson stared at his coffee mug, watching the dark liquid ripple. The night shift at United Earth Defense Force headquarters was usually quiet, but tonight was different. The massive screen in front of him was blinking red, and his coffee hadn't stopped shaking for the past 5 minutes. "Captain, you need to see this," called Dr. Emma Thompson from her station. Her blonde hair was messy from running her fingers through it too many times, a habit she had when she was nervous. "The signal's getting stronger." Mike walked over to her console, his boots making soft thuds on the metal floor. The reading on her screen looked like nothing he'd ever seen before. "What am I looking at, Doctor?" "It's a transmission," Emma said, pushing her glasses up her nose. "And it's not coming from Earth." Just then, every screen in the control room lit up bright blue. The coffee mugs, pens, and small items on desks started floating an inch off their surfaces. Mike grabbed the back of Emma's chair to steady himself as a deep, rumbling voice filled the room. "PUPLE of Earth." The voice boomed, speaking perfect English, but with a strange echo that made it sound like it was coming through a long tube. "We are EKEVALDORA, an empire. Are you getting this?" Mike asked his communications officer, who nodded quickly while pressing buttons on his console. "Recording and broadcasting to all UED bases worldwide." "Sir," the officer replied. The voice continued. "Your planet HASBEN shows in for conquest. We possess the ultimate weapon. 1. The to while bring your civilization to its knees. Surrender now, or faces the consequences." Mike exchanged looks with Emma. In all their training scenarios about first contact, none had started quite like this. He pressed the broadcast button on his command chair. "This is Captain Mike Anderson of the United Earth Defense Force. We receive your transmission. Before any talk of surrender, we request a demonstration of this weapon's capabilities on an uninhabited area of our choosing." The room went quiet. Coffee mugs settled back onto desks with gentle clinks. For 30 seconds, nothing happened. Then the voice returned, sounding slightly less confident. "No. The weapon is too powerful to demonstrate. You must simply surrender, knowing we have it." Emma raised an eyebrow at Mike. Something wasn't adding up. In her 10 years studying potential alien contact scenarios, this felt off. "I repeat," Mike said firmly, "we cannot consider surrender without understanding the threat. Standard diplomatic protocol requires." "Piro Tosiolo as ERRELEVANT." The voice interrupted, now sounding almost flustered. "Our weapon is very scary. Really STAR. You should be very afraid." Lieutenant Bill Parker, manning the radar station, raised his hand like a school kid. "Sir, we're picking up movement in high orbit. Multiple objects entering the atmosphere. But..." He squinted at his screen. "The mass readings are all wrong for missiles." "Wrong how?" Mike asked, walking over. "They're too light, sir, and there are thousands of them." Emma's fingers flew across her keyboard as she tracked the objects. Impact trajectory suggesting they'll hit every major military base worldwide. But she paused, frowning at her calculations. At their current velocity, they'll land with about the same force as what, Doctor? "As throwing a tennis ball underhand," she finished, looking confused. The alien voice boomed again. "UAV-1 Earth Echo your to surrender, or we deploy the weapon. Fear US." The transmission cut off abruptly. In its wake, the control room stayed silent for several seconds before Lieutenant Parker spoke up. Did anyone else think they sounded kind of nervous? Mike nodded slowly, trying to make sense of it all. "Dr. Thompson, get me everything you can on those objects entering our atmosphere. I want to know what we're dealing with before they land." He turned to his communications officer. "And get me General Roberts. Tell him," he paused, choosing his words carefully. "Tell him first contact has been made, but it's really weird." As the control room burst into activity, Mike walked back to his coffee mug and picked it up. He had a feeling this was going to be a very long night, and a very strange one at that. Whatever these aliens were up to, something told him it wasn't going to be anything like the invasion scenarios they'd trained for. Little did he know, things were about to get much, much weirder. Lieutenant James Cooper stood in the watchtower of Nevada's Desert Peak military base, binoculars pressed against his face. The morning sun was just starting to rise, painting the sky pink. According to headquarters, the alien objects would hit in less than 5 minutes. "All personnel, take cover." His radio crackled. Unknown projectiles approaching drop zone. James kept watching the sky. After a few seconds, he saw them. Thousands of small yellow objects falling like rain. They didn't look like any weapons he'd ever seen. In fact, they looked almost like... "Sir," he called to his commanding officer, "you might want to see this." Colonel Frank Miller grabbed the binoculars. His mouth fell open as he watched the objects get closer. "Are those rubber ducks?" Before anyone could answer, the first wave hit. Hundreds of yellow rubber ducks bounced off the base's roof with quiet squeaks. They rolled down and fell to the ground, some landing upright, their little orange beaks pointing accusingly at the confused soldiers. "Take cover," someone yelled, but it was hard to sound serious when the attack made squeaking noises. A rubber duck hit James on the head and bounced off. He picked it up, turning it over in his hands. It was completely ordinary, the kind you'd find in any dollar store's toy section. On the bottom were the words "Made in China" and a small barcode. His radio came to life. "This is Captain Anderson at command. All bases report in." "What exactly are we being hit with?" "Desert Peak reporting," Colonel Miller said into his radio, trying to keep his voice professional while ducking another wave of bath toys. "Sir, they're rubber ducks. Regular rubber ducks. Thousands of them." More reports came in from bases worldwide. "Pearl Harbor here. Confirming rubber duck bombardment. RAF base in London. Yellow ducks everywhere. Sir. Moscow base. Many small yellow birds falling. Very squeaky." The alien voice boomed from the sky again. "Turi MBLBFORI our mighty weapon, humans." James watched as a rubber duck bounced off Colonel Miller's nose. The colonel didn't even flinch. He just stared at the sky with his mouth open. Back at command, Captain Mike Anderson and Dr. Emma Thompson were reviewing the situation. The floor was covered in rubber ducks that had fallen through the base's open observation dome. "Dr. Thompson," Mike said slowly, picking up a duck from his desk, "please tell me this is some kind of trick. Maybe they're disguised bombs." Emma shook her head, holding up a scanner. "They're exactly what they look like, ordinary rubber ducks. Some even have price tags still on them." She picked one up and squeezed it. It made a happy squeaking sound. The alien voice returned. "Your military bases are no helpless. Look at the station." Mike pressed his broadcast button. "Valdorian Empire, this is Captain Anderson. Are rubber ducks your superweapon?" There was a long pause before the aliens responded. "Yes. Your most powerful weapons of aquatic destruction. We have been collecting them from your planet for years." Emma dropped her coffee mug, which landed safely in a pile of rubber ducks. "They think rubber ducks are weapons." Lieutenant Bill Parker raised his hand again. "Sir, I have a 3-year-old nephew. He has these in his bathtub. They're toys." "I know that, Lieutenant," Mike sighed, watching as another wave of ducks fell from the sky. "The question is, why don't they know that?" At Desert Peak Base, James helped Colonel Miller wade through knee-deep rubber ducks to reach the command center. Every step made squeaking noises. Soldiers were trying to clear paths with snow shovels, but there were just too many ducks. "Sir," James said, looking at the yellow sea of toys around them, "should we surrender?" Colonel Miller picked up a duck and squeezed it. It squeaked cheerfully. "Son," he said, trying to maintain his dignity while standing in a pile of bath toys, "in 20 years of military service, this is officially the stupidest invasion I've ever seen." Above them, the alien ships continued their rubber duck bombardment, apparently waiting for Earth to crumble before their mighty arsenal of bath toys. Dr. Emma Thompson's laboratory looked like a toy store had exploded inside it. Rubber ducks covered every surface, arranged in neat rows for testing. She stood at her workbench, wearing safety goggles and holding a rubber duck in a pair of tongs, while Dr. Robert Wilson bounced excitedly beside her. "This is amazing," Robert said, picking up another duck and examining it. His red hair was messy, and his lab coat had yellow feathers stuck to it. "Do you think they're made of some alien material? Maybe they're actually tiny spaceships." Emma sighed. "Rob, I've run every test we have. They're just regular rubber ducks. Look." She pointed to a duck under a microscope. Standard polyvinyl chloride plastic. The squeaker is a simple air valve. Some of them even have Walmart price stickers. "But that's impossible," Robert said, squeezing a duck. It squeaked happily. "Why would aliens think these are weapons?" Just then, Captain Mike Anderson walked in, carefully stepping over piles of ducks. "Please tell me you found something, doctors. The president is asking questions, and I'd rather not tell him we're being invaded by bath toys." Emma picked up her tablet and showed him the test results. "The ducks are completely normal. But we did find something interesting." She walked over to a world map on the wall, covered in red pins. "Every single duck we've examined was manufactured between 2020 and 2023, and they're all from the same factories." "So?" Mike asked, picking up a duck and reading the label. "So," Robert jumped in, "we checked the production records. Those factories reported millions of missing ducks during those years. Everyone thought they were accounting errors or theft. But the aliens were stealing them." Mike finished, realization dawning on his face. "But why? And why did they think they were weapons?" Emma pulled up a video on her tablet. "We think we found a clue. Dr. Wilson, show him what you discovered." Robert typed something on his computer, and a large screen lit up. "We've been analyzing their transmission frequencies. They're not just sending signals to us. They're receiving them too. Old signals, really old ones." The screen showed a grainy TV commercial from the 1970s. A mother was giving her child a bath, and a rubber duck sat in the water. The mother's voice rang out clearly. "New Super Squeak Rubber Ducky. It makes bath time so much fun. It's practically a weapon against bedtime tantrums." Mike stared at the screen. "You've got to be kidding me." "We think," Emma said carefully, "that the aliens might have been monitoring our broadcasts for years, but they seem to have trouble understanding that we don't mean everything literally." Mike groaned, sitting down on a chair. A squeaking sound made him jump up. He had sat on another duck. At that moment, Lieutenant James Cooper burst into the lab, holding a tablet. "Captain, you need to see this. We just intercepted an alien transmission to their homeworld." He played the message. "Phase 1 complete. The humans' deadly aquatic arsenal has been captured and turning against them. They seems to arrange ELYRESSISTANT to their own weapons, requesting PRNISSION to deploy the SOAP BBL bombs." The room went quiet except for the occasional squeak of a duck being accidentally stepped on. "Soap bubble bombs?" Robert asked, trying not to laugh. Emma picked up another duck and turned it over in her hands. They must have seen commercials for bubble bath too. "Captain, I think we might be dealing with aliens who have no concept of advertising. or metaphors, or maybe even fun. Mike rubbed his temples. So what you're telling me is that an advanced alien civilization is attacking Earth with stolen bath toys because they can't tell the difference between advertisements and military broadcasts. That's our working theory, yes, Emma nodded. Though it doesn't explain why they specifically chose rubber ducks out of everything they saw in commercials. Actually, Robert said, raising his hand like an eager student, I might have a theory about that too. You see, in all the duck commercials we found, they're always shown attacking dirt and germs. The aliens might think they're seeing weapon test footage. Mike looked around the lab at the hundreds of yellow rubber ducks, each one squeaking innocently. Get me the Pentagon, he said finally. They're not going to believe this, but they need to know. And someone please find out what a soap bubble bomb is before they try to use those next. Lisa Martinez sat in her office at the United Nations, surrounded by old TV guides and stacks of DVDs. As Earth's leading cultural specialist, she had been called in to figure out exactly how the aliens had gotten everything so wrong. Empty coffee cups littered her desk, and her eyes were tired from watching hundreds of old commercials. Her phone rang. It was Captain Mike Anderson. Please tell me you found something, Mike said. The aliens are threatening to release what they call their ultimate bubble bath bomb in 6 hours. Lisa straightened up in her chair. Actually, yes. Captain, you're not going to believe this, but I think I know exactly what happened. She pulled up a file on her computer. You know how Dr. Thompson found they were watching our old TV signals? Yes, the commercials from the 1970s, Mike said. Well, it's bigger than that. I've been studying their language patterns and comparing them to our broadcast history. These aliens, the Valdorians, they started picking up our TV signals around 1975. But here's the thing. They only received certain channels, and mostly commercials. In the background, Mike could hear a rubber duck squeak. They were everywhere now. Go on, he said. The Valdorians have no concept of entertainment or play. Lisa explained, getting excited. Their whole society is built on practical purposes. When they saw our commercials, they thought they were watching military broadcasts and weapon demonstrations. She clicked through her files. Look at this commercial from 1976. Rubber ducky, you're the one. You make bath time so much fun. It's like having a weapon of mass destruction against dirt. To them, that wasn't cute advertising. It was a military announcement. Mike was quiet for a moment. So they'd been stealing rubber ducks for years because they thought they were stealing our most powerful weapons. Lisa finished. But it gets better. I found an old soap commercial where a mom says, "This bubble bath is so relaxing. It's like a peace treaty for the whole family." The Valdorians think bubble bath is some kind of chemical warfare agent that forces peace treaties. Just then, Lisa's assistant ran in with a new report. She read it quickly and started laughing. "Captain, you need to hear this," she said, trying to control her giggles. "The Valdorians just sent another message. They're demanding we hand over all our rubber duck manufacturing facilities." Mike groaned. "They want our toy factories. They think they're weapon factories," Lisa explained. "In their minds, they're cutting off our supply of advanced military equipment. But there's actually good news here." "We could use some of that," Mike said. Lisa pulled up more files. "The Valdorians are absolutely terrified of us. Think about it. From their view, we're so powerful that we use our most deadly weapons as children's toys. They think we're either completely insane or incredibly advanced." Through the phone, she heard Emma Thompson's voice. "That actually makes sense. They're not acting aggressive. They're acting scared." Lisa nodded, even though they couldn't see her. "Exactly. And there's more. In all their messages, they keep asking us to surrender. But look at the wording. They're practically begging. They don't want to fight us. They're trying to stop what they think is a much more powerful civilization before we use our real weapons." "What real weapons?" Mike asked. "Think about it, Captain. If rubber ducks are weapons, What do they think about our actual military equipment? They probably think our tanks and planes are some kind of gods. Mike was quiet for a moment, then asked, "So what do we do with this information?" Lisa smiled. "I have an idea. But first, I need you to send me all the bubble bath you can find. And get me someone from marketing. If the Valdorians are scared of bath toys, wait until they see what we do with shower gel and loofah sponges." As she hung up the phone, Lisa looked at the rubber duck sitting on her desk. She picked it up and squeezed it, listening to the happy squeak. Who would have thought that humanity's first alien war would be won with bath toys and a crash course in advertising? Colonel Tom Baker stood in front of the United Nations Security Council, trying to keep a straight face as he gave his presentation. Behind him, a large screen showed pictures of various bathroom items. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, pointing to a pink loofah sponge, "I present to you Operation Bubble Bath." Several diplomats tried to hide their smiles. The Russian ambassador wasn't even trying. He was openly grinning. "Thanks to cultural specialist Martinez's research, we now know the Valdorians believe our bathroom items are weapons," Tom continued. "So I propose we give them exactly what they fear, a full bathroom arsenal." He clicked to the next slide, showing a bath bomb. "This is what the Valdorians will see, a sphere of unknown composition that dissolves in water, releasing clouds of colored chemicals. To us, it's a pleasant way to relax. To them," he paused for effect, "it's clearly a high-tech chemical weapon." The French ambassador raised her hand. "Are you suggesting we fight the aliens with bath products?" "Exactly," Tom nodded. "We've already loaded 3 space shuttles with what we're calling weapons of bath destruction. Loofahs, rubber ducks, bath bombs, bubble bath, shower gel, and those little plastic back scrubbers." The British ambassador leaned forward. "And you believe this will work?" "According to our intelligence, the Valdorians are already terrified of rubber ducks. Imagine their reaction when they see these." Tom held up a glittery bath bomb. "When dropped in water, it creates swirling clouds of color and releases a pleasant lavender scent. To them, it'll look like we're deploying some kind of chemical superweapon." In the back of the room, Captain Mike Anderson watched with Dr. Emma Thompson and Lisa Martinez. The 3 of them had helped develop this crazy plan. "Do you really think they'll fall for it?" Emma whispered. Lisa nodded. "They've been monitoring our TV signals for years, but only commercials. Show them a shampoo commercial where someone says, 'It's like an explosion of freshness,' and they think it's a military test." Mike watched as Colonel Baker demonstrated a loofah sponge. "And you're sure about the timing?" "Perfect timing," Lisa said. "Their next TV signal intercept should be picking up infomercials from the 1990s right about now. You know, the ones where they say things like, 'This cleaning product is so powerful, it's like a nuclear blast against dirt.'" At the front of the room, Tom was wrapping up his presentation. "Operation Bubble Bath will launch in 3 phases. Phase 1. We send them this message." He played a video they had prepared. In the video, a serious-looking military officer held up a rubber duck. "Valdorian Empire," he said gravely, "we see you have discovered our basic training weapons. However, if you continue this aggression, we will be forced to deploy our advanced arsenal." The camera panned to show a table full of colorful bath bombs and shower products. "Phase 2, Tom continued. "We launch our bathroom supplies into space near their fleet. The bath bombs will dissolve in their own containment spheres, releasing clouds of glitter and scent into space. According to Dr. Thompson's calculations, the zero-gravity effect on the bath bombs should be quite spectacular." Emma grinned. She had enjoyed working those calculations out. "And Phase 3, Tom finished. "We show them our ultimate weapon, a children's toy that combines soap, water, and air to create." He pressed a button, and a photo appeared on screen. Giant bubbles. The room was silent for a moment. Then the Chinese ambassador spoke up. "Let me understand this correctly. We're going to end an alien invasion by convincing them that bubble mixture is a superweapon. Exactly, Tom said. After all, they started this by thinking rubber ducks were weapons of mass destruction. We're just playing along. The UN Secretary General stood up. All those in favor of authorizing Operation Bubble Bath. Every hand in the room went up. Some were shaking with suppressed laughter, but they went up. As they left the meeting, Mike turned to Lisa. You know, when they write about humanity's first interstellar war in history books, nobody is going to believe this. That's okay, Lisa replied, patting her pocket where she kept her lucky rubber duck. Sometimes the truth is stranger than fiction, and way more fun. Lieutenant Mary Williams sat in the pilot's seat of the Space Shuttle bathroom blitz, looking at the massive alien ships ahead. Her cargo hold was filled with what had to be the strangest military payload in human history. Thousands of bath bombs, bottles of bubble bath, and loofahs. Control, this is Bathroom Blitz, she said into her radio. We're in position. Permission to begin Operation Bubble Bath. Captain Mike Anderson's voice crackled back. Permission granted, Lieutenant. Give them a show they'll never forget. Mary turned to her co-pilot, Jeff Brown, ready to make history with the weirdest space battle ever. Jeff nodded, trying not to laugh. Never thought I'd be fighting aliens with bath products, but here we are. The alien ships loomed ahead, their dark metal hulls reflecting Earth's sunlight. They had been quiet since the rubber duck attack, probably waiting to see if their superweapon would make Earth surrender. Launching first wave of bath bombs, Mary announced, pressing a button. The cargo bay doors opened, releasing hundreds of colorful spheres into space. Dr. Thompson had modified them to dissolve their outer shells in vacuum, and the effect was spectacular. In zero gravity, the bath bombs burst into clouds of sparkly powder, creating massive, swirling rainbow clouds around the alien ships. What's happening? Jeff asked, watching the alien ships start to move erratically. Through the radio, they heard the panicked alien transmission. ALERT. The humans are deploying chemical warfare kilogs. Their weapons are far more advanced than our intelligence suggested. Mary grinned and grabbed the microphone for the ship's external speakers. They had practiced this speech. Attention, Veldorian fleet. You have witnessed only a small demonstration of our bath bomb technology. Surrender now, or face the full power of our bathroom arsenal. Back at Mission Control, Lisa Martinez watched the space battle unfold on the main screen. The sparkly clouds from the bath bombs were now surrounding most of the alien fleet, making it look like a cosmic disco ball. Phase 1 successful, she reported to Mike. Their communications show they're completely confused by the bath bombs. Should we proceed to Phase 2? Mike nodded, trying to hide his smile. Launch the loofahs. In space, Mary and Jeff deployed their next weapon. Hundreds of pink and purple loofah sponges, attached to small propulsion units, zoomed toward the alien ships. In zero gravity, the loofahs spread out like puffy, colorful sea creatures. Unknown biological weapons, AP Puroishing. The aliens screamed over their channels. They appear to be some kind of combat creatures. Several alien ships tried to shoot the loofahs, but their energy weapons just made the sparkly bath bomb clouds shine brighter. The loofahs bounced harmlessly off their hulls, spreading bits of colorful foam everywhere. Time for the final phase, Mary said, reaching for the big red button they had labeled Bubble Protocol. Deploying bubble solution. Now. Giant tanks released special bubble mixture into space, while small jets created air pressure. In the zero-gravity environment, the bubbles didn't pop. They grew larger and larger, forming enormous iridescent spheres that drifted toward the alien ships. The alien communication channels erupted in chaos. Massive energies, PERDs, DETCTED, HFY, using their forbidden UBBL-TCE technology. All ships RETRAT. Retreat. The Valdorian fleet started pulling back, their engines leaving trails through the sparkly clouds. Several ships got tangled in clouds of loofahs, making their retreat look like a cosmic circus performance. "Control," Mary radioed, watching the aliens flee. "You're not going to believe this, but it worked. They're actually running away from soap bubbles." In Mission Control, everyone burst into applause. Dr. Thompson was already calculating how the bath bombs had created such spectacular effects in zero gravity, while Lisa Martinez started preparing a message to explain human bath products to the aliens, very, very carefully. Mike picked up his phone to call the UN. "Get me the Security Council," he said. "Tell them Operation Bubble Bath was a complete success, and someone please record this for posterity. Nobody in the future is ever going to believe we won our first alien war with bath toys." As the alien ships disappeared into deep space, trailing sparkles and loofahs, Mary and Jeff high-fived in their shuttle cockpit. Earth was safe, protected by the power of bubble bath and humanity's ability to weaponize practically anything, even if only in the aliens' imagination. Ambassador David Reynolds sat at his desk in the newly built First Contact Center, watching the large screen in front of him. After the success of Operation Bubble Bath, the Valdorians had finally agreed to peaceful talks. Their ambassador's face filled the screen, a blue-skinned being with large, concerned eyes. "So," David said carefully, "you're telling me that your entire military strategy was based on our television commercials?" The Valdorian ambassador, whose name sounded like a sneezing cat, nodded seriously. "We believed we were intercepting your military broadcasts. Your weapons were so casually displayed, we assumed you must be the most powerful civilization in the galaxy." David picked up a rubber duck from his desk. "And this? You really thought this was a weapon?" The advertisement clearly stated it was a weapon against bath-time tantrums, the ambassador said defensively. "We observed many human children using these devices during their hygiene rituals. We concluded they were training with weapons from an early age." Behind David, Dr. Emma Thompson and Lisa Martinez tried very hard not to laugh. They were there to help explain human culture to the aliens. "Let me show you something," David said, pulling up a modern commercial on his tablet. "This is an advertisement for chocolate cake. When it says a taste explosion that will blow your mind, it's not actually going to explode or damage your brain." The ambassador's eyes widened. "You mean the cake is not a psychic weapon?" "No," David smiled. "Humans often use exaggerated language to make things sound more exciting. We call these figures of speech or metaphors. They're not meant to be taken literally." The alien was quiet for a moment, processing this. "So when your commercials say this detergent fights dirt like a trained warrior, the cleaning liquid is not actually a combat veteran?" "Exactly." Lisa stepped forward. "And when we say a shampoo gives you explosive shine, we don't mean it actually explodes." The ambassador looked deeply troubled. "We may have made a significant error in our cultural assessment. Our military analysts spent years studying your weapon advertisements. We have an entire research facility dedicated to understanding the deadly power of something called Mr. Clean." Emma couldn't hold back anymore. She burst out laughing. "Mr. Clean is just a cartoon character who sells cleaning products. A mere marketing device." The ambassador's blue skin turned slightly purple, "But we built a shrine to him. We thought he was your god of chemical warfare." David managed to keep his professional demeanor, though his lips twitched. "Perhaps we should start over. We can teach you about human advertising, and you can tell us about your culture. For instance, why did you think rubber ducks were particularly dangerous?" "The squeezing action," the ambassador explained earnestly. "We thought it was some kind of sonic weapon testing. And they float. Only very advanced military technology can defeat gravity like that." Lisa pulled out her notebook. "This is fascinating. Your culture must have a very different approach to play and entertainment." "Entertainment?" The ambassador tilted his head. "Is this another metaphor?" "Oh boy," David sighed. "We have a lot to explain. Dr. Thompson, Could you get the cultural exchange package ready? The one with the basics about human fun, games, and why not everything is a weapon. Emma nodded, already planning how to explain the concept of fun to a species that thought bath toys were weapons of mass destruction. And Ambassador, David added, we'd appreciate it if you could return all the rubber ducks you've collected over the years. Some children are missing their bath toys. The alien looked embarrassed. We may have already built them into our ceremonial weapon wall. It's 50 feet high and squeaks when it rains. David rubbed his temples. Right. Okay, let's start with the basics. Lisa, could you pull up that PowerPoint about the difference between actual weapons and things that are just the bomb? And maybe explain why saying something is the bomb doesn't mean it will explode. As they began their cultural exchange session, David couldn't help but smile. Humanity's first major diplomatic crisis with an alien species was going to be explaining why advertisements shouldn't be taken literally and why rubber ducks weren't part of our military training program. Somehow, it seemed perfectly fitting. 1 month after the Great Bathroom War, negotiator Rachel Brooks stood in the United Nations Assembly Hall, holding what had to be the strangest peace treaty in human history. Next to her stood the Valdorian ambassador, who had finally learned to stop flinching every time someone mentioned bubble bath. Ladies and gentlemen, Rachel announced to the gathered world leaders, I present to you the Duck-Valdorian Peace Accord. Captain Mike Anderson, sitting in the front row with Dr. Emma Thompson and Lisa Martinez, tried not to smile at the treaty's unofficial nickname. The rubber duck had become an unexpected symbol of peace between the two species. Rachel began reading the main points of the treaty. Article 1. The Valdorian Empire acknowledges that Earth's bathroom products are not, in fact, weapons of mass destruction. They agree to attend mandatory classes on human metaphors, advertising practices, and the concept of fun. The Valdorian ambassador nodded solemnly. He was wearing a rubber duck pin on his formal robes. It had become a symbol of his new understanding of human culture. Article 2. Rachel continued. Earth agrees to provide the Valdorians with a complete database of human advertisements, along with detailed explanations of what is and is not meant to be taken literally. Special attention will be given to explaining why killer deals do not actually involve murder. In the audience, Lisa Martinez smiled. She had spent weeks explaining to the Valdorians why mind-blowing prices didn't actually cause head injuries. Article 3. The Valdorian Empire will return all stolen rubber ducks to Earth, except for 1,000 units which they may keep for their new Museum of Human Cultural Misunderstandings. Earth agrees to provide proper context for these displays. Dr. Thompson had already started designing the museum exhibits. The Valdorians were particularly interested in understanding why humans gave their children small vinyl weapons, as they still occasionally called rubber ducks, to play with. Article 4. Rachel said, trying to keep her voice professional, Earth agrees to help the Valdorians dismantle their rubber duck weapon wall in a way that preserves some squeaking capabilities, as it has become a popular tourist attraction on their homeworld. Mike remembered the photos of the wall. Millions of rubber ducks arranged in a massive yellow barrier that made squeaking noises in the wind. The Valdorians have been quite proud of it, even after learning its true purpose. And finally, Article 5. Both parties agree to establish the Interstellar Cultural Exchange Program, dedicated to preventing future misunderstandings between our species. The program's logo will feature a rubber duck wearing a diplomatic sash. As Rachel finished reading, the hall erupted in applause. The Valdorian ambassador stepped forward to sign the treaty, using a pen that looked suspiciously like a tiny rubber duck. After the ceremony, the core team gathered in a small conference room. Someone had brought a cake decorated with rubber ducks wearing peace symbols. You know, Mike said, cutting slices of cake, this whole thing could have gone very differently. We're lucky they chose rubber ducks as their superweapon. Imagine if they'd misunderstood our actual military advertisements. Lisa laughed. They did, actually. They thought our tanks were decorative garden features because they saw them in a Veterans Day parade. They couldn't believe we'd display our real weapons so openly. The best part, Emma added, it is that they're now completely fascinated by human culture. They've requested everything from toy catalogs to cooking shows, though we had to explain very carefully that mouth-watering food doesn't actually make you drool uncontrollably. Rachel picked up a rubber duck from the table. They seem to be everywhere these days. Sometimes the best way to make peace is through shared embarrassment. We learned about their culture, they learned about ours, and everyone got a good laugh out of it. Plus, Mike added, we're now officially the only species in known space to win an interstellar war with bath toys. That's got to count for something. As they celebrated, a news alert popped up on their phones. The Valdorians had just released their first attempt at human-style advertising. It showed a rubber duck with the slogan, now officially certified as non-lethal. Buy one for your peaceful home today. The room burst into laughter. Peace through rubber ducks wasn't the most dignified way to join the galactic community, but it had worked. And somewhere in space, a wall of yellow ducks still squeaked in the cosmic winds, reminding everyone that sometimes the best weapons against war are understanding, patience, and a really good sense of humor.